Over the last 6 months, the job market has transformed in ways that nobody was fully prepared for. Back in what now feels like the good old days of 2024, workers only had to deal with things like ghost jobs, quiet firing, invisible overtime, application black holes, and the occasional round of rolling layoffs. But today we're facing a completely new landscape, with a whole fresh batch of buzzwords to describe how people find work, keep it, and try to move forward. And the truth is, a lot of these changes are hitting young workers the hardest, especially young men. For the first time ever, unemployment among young male college graduates is no better than it is for those without degrees. That's historic. On top of that, the share of unemployed people entering the job market for the very first time is the highest it's been since 1988. Job mobility has almost completely frozen, which means that switching jobs for a pay bump or a promotion is no longer the golden ticket it used to be. And while the overall unemployment rate still looks pretty good on paper, that's actually part of the problem. It hides the fact that under the surface, things aren't as stable as they seem. New graduates are facing one of the toughest entry-level job markets in over a decade. For years, the advice was always that a degree, especially in computer science or business, was the smartest path forward. But with AI shaking up tech, and with industries constantly cycling through booms and busts, a lot of graduates are realizing that their hard-won degrees don't carry the payoff they were promised. For many, it feels like they invested 4 years of their lives in a mountain of tuition debt for a piece of paper that no longer opens the doors it once did. This is part of a cycle we've seen before. In the 1980s, it was oil and gas. Before that industry crashed. In the early 2000s, it was finance. Before the global financial crisis. More recently, it's been big tech. Young graduates flock to the industries that are booming, chasing those high starting salaries. But by the time the rest of the world catches up, the boom slows, layoffs begin, and suddenly there are far more qualified workers than there are jobs to fill. For decades, the mantra was just learn to code. Before that, it was get an MBA. And now more people are questioning if going to college at all is worth the investment, especially when unemployment rates for graduates and non-graduates are starting to look the same. But this is where things get more complicated. Even if unemployment rates match, college graduates still tend to earn more once they are employed, and they're still more likely to be active in the workforce than those with only a high school diploma. So the payoff hasn't disappeared completely. It's just getting weaker each year. The calculation isn't just about lifetime earnings anymore. For many people, a little money early in life with no debt looks a lot more attractive than higher earnings later in life, weighed down by student loans. But here's the detail that's even more important. This trend applies almost entirely to men. College-educated women still have lower unemployment rates than their non-graduate peers, and that gap has actually grown at the same time the gap for men has vanished. That difference points to some of the most important shifts happening in the workforce today. For years, governments, schools, and companies have pushed hard to bring more women into fields like science, technology, and business, areas that require a degree and historically paid very well. And those efforts have been successful. Women now compete directly in spaces that were once overwhelmingly male. But while men have seen their opportunities shrink in these areas, non-college paths like the trades, construction, and other semi-skilled work haven't faced the same surge in competition. Those jobs have held up surprisingly well, especially with demand for infrastructure and housing. Meanwhile, women who do go into trendy industries like technology are also exposed to unique risks. During the recent waves of layoffs in big tech, women accounted for nearly half of the job losses, even though they only made up about a quarter of the workforce. The reasons are messy. Women are often overrepresented in departments like HR or marketing, which are the first to be cut. They're also judged more harshly in high-performance roles. And when companies shift from diversity initiatives to cost-cutting mode, those who were hired to meet diversity targets sometimes end up on the chopping block first. All of this combines into an unsettling picture. For men, the graduate advantage is disappearing. For women, it still exists, but it's fragile and highly dependent on the industries they enter. And across the board, something else is happening. The payoff for job hopping has collapsed. For years, the advice was clear. Loyalty to a company doesn't pay, and the best way to boost your earnings is to change jobs every few years. But now job hopping isn't getting people ahead. Wage growth has slowed, hiring has stalled, and workers are clinging to their current roles out of fear that moving will just put them in the next round of layoffs. There's even a new buzzword for this, job hugging. People are holding on to their positions for dear life, prioritizing stability over advancement. Interestingly, this shift has unexpectedly benefited workers in fields that aren't usually considered lucrative. Take art graduates, for example. They often go into their chosen careers out of passion, not money, and they stick with jobs they're good at, becoming hard to replace. In today's environment, that kind of stability is an advantage, even if it didn't look like the smart financial move a few years ago. So where does this leave young workers today? For men especially, the answer might be in rethinking the careers they've traditionally avoided. Nursing, teaching, and healthcare are fields that have long been dominated by women, but they're also among the most stable sectors right now. They benefit from demographic trends like an aging population. They have low unemployment rates, and men often find it easier to move up in these professions thanks to something called the glass elevator effect, where men in female-dominated jobs rise faster into leadership. Yes, the starting salaries may not be as flashy as tech or finance once promised, but over a lifetime, the consistent stability and opportunities for progression can rival or even beat the so-called prestigious paths. The job market has always been cyclical, but the cycles are speeding up. Industries boom and bust faster, degrees carry less guaranteed weight, and the strategies that worked for previous generations no longer apply. The best move today isn't necessarily chasing the trendiest job or the highest starting salary, but finding a role that can weather uncertainty. And as strange as it sounds, the safest bet for many may be in the very careers that used to be overlooked. Thanks for watching InvestingFlix, where smart money learns smarter moves. Subscribe for more insights that grow your wealth.